Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back to another edition of The Winning Drive. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis, joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn, the young prodigy CJ Vogel, and of course the coach, former high school football coach at Burnett, Capel, Brownwood, Rotan, Belton. Also played college football at Abilene Christian, coached there as well in multiple stints, and also was on the University of Texas football coaching staff for multiple head coaches. Now you can catch his work at ShipleyRanches.com. It's Coach Bob Shipley. What's going on, Coach? How you doing?
Hey, one day closer to another game, babe.
Yeah, man, especially after an L. Ain't nothing better than getting back on the field after that. Got to redeem yourself. We'll talk a lot about that. A redemption game for the Longhorns after their first loss of the season to the Georgia Bulldogs. And, of course, they did not play to the standard, so that's something else that we'll talk about. Of course, this show is mostly devoted to you, your questions, your comments, whatever you got. We'll answer as many of them as we can. Super chats can jump to the front of the line. They'll interrupt the show at any time. You know how that goes. But we'll get into Texas Vanderbilt a little bit. If you guys want, we can talk about some of the other big games coming up this college football weekend. I know the Aggies have a big game coming up. Actually, the Aggies and the LSU Tigers, actually the two teams that control their fate right now in the SEC. That won't be for long because they're facing off this weekend. So we can talk about that a little bit if you guys want to. Sark had a media availability today. We'll get into some of his comments from the media availability as well. And we can also dive into any other topics. But, of course, I think the main topic is, in my opinion, I could be off here. How's Quinn going to look versus Vanderbilt? I think that's kind of everybody's number one. Most Longhorn fans I talk to, whether I'm hanging out, in the neighborhood and talking to my neighbors, or whether I'm at the local sports bar talking to Longhorn fans, or whether I'm on this platform talking to Longhorn fans, they want to know how Quinn's going to look. How's Quinn going to look? How do you think he's going to look? And because of that, I almost feel like this feels like a legacy game for Quinn. I almost feel like this game, when we think about Quinn's legacy at Texas, we're going to be talking about this game one way or the other versus Vanderbilt. Strange to say, but am I off about that, Coach? It feels like, man, it's a big game. I feel like other than the Michigan game, the Bama games, Texas OU, of course, hell, college football playoff, those are the big games, the legacy games. But I almost feel like this is up there now with those games, considering the situation we're in now and how our eyes are on Quinn. Right?
I totally agree. It kind of feels like over the past, 2 weeks, some group of folks that have followed Quinn for a while have kind of dismissed every accomplishment that he's had at Texas. And it's, it's almost in the sense that it doesn't matter anymore. And to an extent, right, that makes sense at the quarterback spot, right? What have you done for me lately? If you're not putting the team in good positions, if you're not scoring points, you got to go with an option that is. But it also is almost a bit dismissive of everything that he's accomplished and the place that he's kind of gotten this Texas program to because of the last 2 weeks and coming back from injury to get back onto the field. And, so in a way, yeah, legacy, maybe, it could teeter-totter one way or the other. I don't want to say it's going to define it, but if that's the conversation that we're having, that certainly tells you the position that I think the overall public views of Quinn at the moment. And again, it's a big time put up or shut up game for Quinn and for this Texas offense in general. And I would love nothing more. Trust me, because I'm going to be very much in the Quinn and on section of Twitter and social media and on Texas football. I'm all aboard. But it's going to be a tough retreat if things don't go well in Nashville. Fortunately, that's not what I'm expecting. And I think this Texas offense will find success. And if that's the case, you go into the bye week with some confidence, you get to build on that, and then you get those 4 games at the end of the year to really get, back up to the standard that we saw at the beginning of the year. And that would be huge for Texas and Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, I think those are great points. And how soon we forget, Alabama 23 and some of the other great victories that Quinn has had. But I have to agree. I mean, really, 3 not so great performances in a row. Almost like he's digressing each game a little bit, So I agree. This is a huge game. If he doesn't come through and show some spark and lead us to a impressive victory, then Yeah, we got a problem on our hands, and I don't know what to do because I love and appreciate Quinn as much as anybody, but there's years and years of work that are culminating to these last few games, and so do you stay faithful and loyal to a guy even though for whatever reason, whether it's mental, whether it's physical, he's not getting it done? It would be a shame to have his legacy go down that way, in my opinion. I just think it'd be a shame. So I'm hoping and praying for Quinn to come out and have a great game because I think he deserves he deserves it. He's put his heart and his body on the line every week for us, and how easy it is for us to turn around and embarrassingly throw rocks at a guy who's done so much, for the university. I don't think anybody would want anything more than Quinn just to come through and be the Quinn that was at Alabama last year, that Michigan this year. I mean, UTSA, fill in the blank, all the great things he's done. But the old adage, how soon they forget, is so true.
No doubt about
It's
that.
huge.
What have you done for me lately? But it just feels like, that it's a real big game for Quinn. I got a lot of faith in Quinn too. I don't know what you call it. What'd you go to today? The Quinnanon?
Quinnanon. Yeah.
That is outrageous. I love it. All right, we'll get to some of the questions here. But some of Sark's comments, one thing Sark did say, gentlemen, that is very relevant for Texas and is going to be impactful. He said they're hopeful that Michael Kern will be ready to go. He said he thought he has had a couple of good practices in a row, which is a really good sign. He said, but again, we'll get to game day and assess them. He said assess that situation on game day and decide which punter they're going to go with at that time. The special teams did not necessarily have a great game either versus Georgia, and they've missed Michael Kern. That is clear. I'm not sure if it's more the coverage units or Michael Kern. I will admit I've not watched a ton of film on special teams. I usually skip over the special teams when I do my film watching breakdown, and that I shouldn't do that. Now I'm gonna watch my special teams reps as well. But what are you guys' thoughts about Michael Kern potentially joining the Longhorns? That could be big in a game like this against a team with the formula to win, like Vanderbilt. Field position could be huge.
Yep.
Well, last week we gave up about 10 yards a punt, really, and so. My friend Coach John Irwin, who does lunch with Coach, he and I and Bobby Burton on Tuesdays, had a great comment, and he said, we if it was 4 punts, that's 40 yards, that's 4 first downs you give up. That's a lot of room. You give me a guy that'll get you 4 first downs, he said, and I'll take that every day. And I got to agree with Coach Irwin. I think that's a huge. 40 yards is 40 yards, and we used to seem like be able to get them in bigger chunks now more often than we do. We are where we are, and punting is even more important than it's ever been. So it would be great to see our regular punter back out there on Saturday.
I couldn't agree more, Coach. And it's weird because the last 2 years you could look at individual plays, you could look at schemes, you could look at moments and scream, wow, this Texas special teams unit is game changing, right? Yep. You could look at the block against Oklahoma. You could look at the return against BYU, all sorts of different moments that Texas utilized in special forces, and it made big plays, big moments, game altering, momentum switches right after. You haven't seen that this year. And I don't want to say that the special teams unit has been bad, but to the standard that we've seen over the past 2 years, it's certainly fallen flat a little bit. And I think a little bit of that is, one, that there's some youth on the gunners. There's been some opportunities for Texas to return punts, and they've had good returns, right? We've seen Silas Bolden get loose. Some of those have been called back. We saw Matthew Golden return a kick to about the 20 last week against Georgia. That got called back. What can Texas do to help a struggling offense? It's in the special teams unit. And right now, we're not seeing that help out this offense at all. It's tough to expect, a team to return a punt or a kick every week. And that's not the expectation, obviously. But to what we've seen with this unit over the past few years, hasn't necessarily been there yet. So I look for maybe some more pressure on a punt. I know Texas loves to set up a block, the return game in the punt game, but we'll see. I think this next 4 or 5 game stretch, there's got to be something more from that unit right now.
Yeah.
I tell you, I think if you go back and you look at penalties on punt returns and kickoff returns, almost every single time it's because somebody was not in position. Okay, either they were lazy or they just flat got beat. They were not in position, so it's an act of desperation, to hold or to block in the back or whatever. And so I think the emphasis needs to be on us hustling 100% effort and being in great position and moving your feet. It's just lack of positioning 90% of the time that's going to cause penalties in the kicking game. You'll have an occasional guy where, he'll just, inadvertently grab the face mask. That stuff happens. It's just you're not. But the other penalties, like I said, the block in the back and, just holding and all that stuff, it's almost always just a lack of positioning on our part.
It's a good point.
Happened a couple of times in that Georgia game. Big play too. Brought back a big return from Matthew Golden at the time. All right, before we get to some of the questions here and some of the other topics of the day, let's thank our friends over at Duck Camp. You see Coach wearing the hat, so he's already representing. He's a big fan of Duck Camp. So am I, and so is our team here at On Texas Football. Go to duckcamp.com. Go check it out for yourself. Duck Camp produces premium outdoor goods for the outdoor spirit in all of us. Duck Camp is dedicated to providing the best outdoor goods so you can outdoor good, whether you're an avid hunter or fisherman, or whether you like to hang out around the campsite and campfire, kind of like I do. No matter how you enjoy the camaraderie of the outdoors, Duck Camp is a brand that understands the culture of outdoor living and the good times and good friends that come along with living an outdoor lifestyle. So go check out their website, duckcamp.com, or go check out their new fall selection as well. I've already ordered some items, excited about those coming, and I'm always representing my duckcamp.com. So go check it out for yourself. We appreciate them sponsoring the winning drive. All right, a couple of questions in here, guys. How about this one? How about man CB? CB, what's up, man? Appreciate you as always, and appreciate your support. Chris Bennett says, congratulations to the late great Cedric Benson, who was part of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame class of 2025. RIB said. He said also Todd Dodge, part of that class.
Yeah.
So congrats to Cedric. Man, I played with Cedric Benson, one of the greatest players in Texas football history, late great Ced Benson. And also I saw somewhere that there was another Longhorn actually that we need to give props to in that class. I'll figure that out too in a second, because I was actually looking that up not too long ago, but I'll get into that. Thank you, CB, for the reminder. Appreciate that. Very classy of you. How about this one from Shivam Patel? He says, guys, it's my first time going to Nashville. Any recommendations for places to hit up? You got to ask Bobby, because Bobby would know. All right, that's Bobby neck of the woods, is it not? And CJ's headed up there tomorrow, right?
Yeah, tomorrow morning. So
I'll tell you, it depends on what you want to. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for 6th Street, go to Broadway. I mean, that's where it's all happening. I mean, it's crazy, but it's a live band. I don't really understand. I'm sure Austin, will continue to claim the live music capital of the world, but you walk down 6th Street, it's not like walking down Broadway. There's an open window with probably a drummer sitting right there facing away from you, and the band playing any kind of music you want. It's just club or bar after bar after bar after bar all the way down, and incredible musicians, incredible. Just, you're looking for places to hit up, man, you can't go wrong there.
it might be time to get on the Google machine, Coach, and I got to find a karaoke bar. Come on. Let's get a show on.
Probably all over the place.
That might be the plan Friday night. We'll see.
They got a lot of open mic places. I'd like to have somebody record that if you get a chance.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, CJ probably wouldn't like that. I will say that I've heard that there's a similar vibe with Nashville and Austin. Just the vibe at times can be similar. So there you go. See, Coach. Coach is a Renaissance man. Didn't know he knew much about Nashville. There you go. How about this from Casey? Says, Coach Shipley, I've been wanting to ask you, But how did it feel to be the OG? Ryan Williams is 17. Back when you were the coach and Jordan's dad were roommates in college.
Yeah, I just feel old. I mean, how else can you put it? I mean, when Jordan was a freshman 20 years ago. This season, 20 years ago.
That's old. Yeah.
Now he didn't hit the field till his third year there. That's the first time he actually got to play after ACL surgery his freshman year and a torn hamstring the year we won the national championship. So he didn't even get on the field until his third year, and he played sparingly his freshman year because I think they were kind of expecting him to get hurt again because he had done it 2 years in a row. But it makes me feel old. But at the same time, I've been there for a while after the boys left, and so it doesn't. I never really lost connection with the team, and you see these old guys used to. They when you bring a recruit in, coach would say, "Hey, Jordan Shipley, this is dad or whatever, Jack Shipley." Well, now they're like, "I don't know who that is," and that's cool.
Yeah.
But if people still remember you, just wait around a little bit. They won't remember you for long.
Yeah,
What have you done for me lately?
Yep, no doubt. Yeah, that's the truth about that. All right, thank you for the question, Casey. We appreciate that. Let me ask you about this game. I heard Sark say today one of his quotes about the running game. We talk about how Quinn has to have a big bounce back performance. The running game as well. Here's what Sark said about the getting the running game going. He said it will be helpful. We're always at our best when we have balance. I think the run game got the spotlight put on it because of the way last week went. We had 38 yards at half. I don't care how we got those 38 yards. Nothing was really going. When you're behind 23-0, you kind of have to throw it to try to get back into the game. How quickly do you guys think Sark will get the running game going? Because when Quinn was the best version of himself, they were running the offense through Quinn. Really high early down pass rates. The only early down pass rates that were lower than 50% were pretty much Arch's first start, and then around 50% because of the Oklahoma game when Quinn had an off game and they pivoted to the running game. How quickly, though, do you think Sark will try to establish the run versus Vandy, or will he run the offense through Quinn? What are your thoughts about your guess on early game? That's like first half, first and second down pass rate. Are we going to be more balanced, or are we going through Quinn?
It's going to be interesting, right? Because that first quarter has been ugly. And what do we like to see from Steve Sarkisian in the first quarter? It's Texas throwing the football, and they do it so often that it's almost backfired because you haven't seen points. You haven't seen, sustained drives. So it all really kind of depends on what kind of Quinn Ewers we see. And that, to me, will dictate what the box looks like from Vanderbilt to open up their running lanes. And, of course, we'll see what kind of go Trey Wisner is for this game this week. And, of course, still a bit dinged up. But Jaden Blue, Jarrett Gibson, even Ryan Niblett. And Texas even unveiled some 31 personnel, Rod. I don't know if you saw that, but, there was some 31 personnel. We only saw that last year, I believe, against Texas Tech and maybe Oklahoma State really late in the year. So you could tell it was something that Sark was sitting on, saying, all right, big moment. Let's see how they kind of react to this. And, as the game went on and progressed, you couldn't go back to it. You can't put 3 running backs on the field when you're down by 20. So for Texas, again, it's all about starting quick. And if you can get a big play out of the running game, that would be huge. Again, it would take so much weight off of the shoulders of Quinn Ewers, but more than anything, it's going to be Quinn. Can he get the ball to his wide receivers? Can he distribute? Can he game manage? That's going to be the big point right now for him, and it has to fall on his shoulders more than anything. Otherwise, what have we seen recently that makes anybody sit back and say, ooh, yeah, this Texas run game, if they want to try it, that's fine. Go ahead.
Rod, to me and CJ, it's a balancing act there. You don't want to come out of the game first down and run the ball and get your butt stuffed and lose 2 yards. Yeah. But at the same time, you don't want to throw a pass and get it jumped right off the bat because now Quinn is like, oh crap, here we go again. They know what we're doing. So it's a very tough thing to balance. I keep saying this, but I just feel like that no matter what they're doing, there's one or two things that we should know we can do successfully. And successfully to me is 4 yards, whether it's running, passing, whatever, just to get a look at what they're doing, how they're going to play us, throw some different formations at them. And as Rod and I talked about on Football Theory, maybe call a run play and a pass play. Go to the line, see how they lined up. CJ, we were talking about the fact that if we call this pass play, what's the worst case scenario they can line up in? Okay. Oops, there it is. All right. So we know how they're lined up. So based on that, we need to have a run play to take advantage of how they're lined up to stop the pass play that we have called. So it's just kind of a cat and mouse game. I mean, we did it some, and I know that other college coaches have done it some. I don't know if that's the answer. I just know that we've got to be careful and have high percentage play. We have to have success the first drive. If we don't have success the first drive and they have a slow 7-8 minute drive and score, then, I don't like to say it when it's us, but Rod, you start thinking, they're jumping our passes or stuffing our run. I mean, we got to find something that works. And I feel like we will. I'm with you, CJ. I thought it was last week. That was too talented of a team, I think, for Quinn to make that much of a quantum leap from where he's at. But I think this would be a really good game for him to come out and spread his wings a little bit and kind of get back in that groove.
Yeah, I agree.
That's been one of the things I've been curious about, just how early to start try to establish a run. But I think you're right, CJ. I think he's going to feel it out. I think he's going to feel out Quinn. And if Quinn, because I do believe he's going to scheme open some early throw. I think you're going to get schemed open throws early.
Get that wide twist back in the rotation. Yeah.
I think exactly. I think it's going to be schemed open. First of all, he's going to engineer and scheme open some one-on-ones and then allow Quinn, like, hey, man, that's a one-on-one. Okay. I just need you to the ball placement needs to be there. You ain't got to, I don't need you to go through full field progressions. You ain't got to go through half field progressions. I'm going to engineer the one-on-ones for you. Some targets to motion. The RPO game, which Quinn has been magnificent at. He calls those opportunity throws. Coach, we talked about that. He said he calls them opportunities for an easy completion. And I think that's what you're going to get early on. Just opportunity throws, opportunities for an easy completion for Quinn to get him in a groove. So I'm with you. I don't think he's going to take a lot of chances early on with the passing game. I think it's going to be stuff that they already know he's going to hit, unless Clark Lee, who's a defensive guy, his head coach of Vandy, unless they have dialed up a magnificent game plan, which is also very possible. Like Coach said, and maybe they may be expecting some of the things you're going to throw out there, some of those schemed open throws. And if they do, then Sark's got to adjust on the fly. But I think that's what you're going to get early on.
You know what I hope has kind of been the message in practice this week for Quinn is, and I don't want to put it out in this way, but I hope that he watched some Jameis Winston this week. Some prime Tampa Bay Buccaneers Jameis Winston. And, I don't want Quinn to turn into Jameis, but there's, excuse my language here, but there's some effort. Just let's see what I can get. Yeah. For Quinn, he doesn't have that right now. That's not been what he's shown on the field the last 2 weeks when he's returned, right? It's been timid. It's been, I know I got to check down. Let's take what I know I can get, which leaves a bigger play down the field. It just pushes it off the table. Whereas, with Jameis Winston, when he was with the Buccaneers, it was like, you know what, dude, I got a Mike Evans. I got a Chris Godwin. I got some guys that I know I can throw the ball down the field to, and they're going to make a play. They might be covered. They might not be the window that I expect, but I trust these guys to go make the play. And, you look at it last week, Quinn came off of some reads down the field that came open, or at least NFL quarterbacks were expected to make, right? Man coverage against Isaiah Bond. I think I'm going to trust Isaiah Bond to create separation on an in-breaking route, out-breaking route, a stop, a comeback, a go. Whatever it is, he's a heck of a wide receiver. If I got one-on-one with him, I'm going to trust him to win that route. Alabama did it last year on 4th and 31, and it worked out pretty well for him, right? So I hope that there was kind of an emphasis in practice. And I haven't checked in on this. Maybe it was the case, maybe it wasn't. But just throw it. Trust yourself. You're a good quarterback. Throw the ball where the ball's expected to go, regardless of the coverage. And against Vanderbilt, that's the best way to start seeing that confidence rise again is, you gain 30 yards on a play where maybe you weren't expecting that coverage or that ball to fit through. It's like a basketball, forward. You get the ball at the last second of a shot clock and you just kind of huck it up and it goes in. You're like, okay, this might be my day. I hope that's kind of what you see from Quinn. And I hope that was kind of the message in practice this weekend, because again, you won't win with Quinn playing the way that he did and the way that offense was flowing. For Sark and Milwee in practice, again, just throw it. Trust yourself. You got to this point for a reason. Texas was damn good last year, and it was because of Quinn Ewers for the most part. Go back to that. Find that rhythm, find that confidence, and just trust yourself more than what you have.
The last time I saw Quinn like that, that's that John Wick type Quinn. He was referring.
Yeah.
It was Michigan, where he would just let it rip. If he saw it, he let it rip. There was no indecisions. Like, I see it, I'm going. Boom. And he was magnificent. But you're right. He seems timid. There's timidity, right, Coach, in his game.
Yeah. And I want to say a couple things. One is we've been at this. What is this? Season 4? Season 4 for Sark.
Yeah.
There's a lot of film out there on him now.
Yeah, it is. That's true.
And so I don't think that defensive coordinators and analysts and GAs and whoever film head coaches don't talk, so you remember when the run and shoot came out and nobody could stop it. And 4 or 5 years, you got enough film on it, you saw what people were doing, and it became less effective. One of the things, Rod, after rewatching the game, to a point that you've made several times, and the success of it is targeting your motion guy. It's really hard to cover our receivers. Like Matthew Golden did it beautifully the other day. He had his DB running, and then he went upfield and he kind of pushed him out and then came underneath and he was wide open, and had a good play. That's the best way that I know of, unless you're going to mesh or rub, is to throw to your motion guy, because he's already got the defensive back on his heels, and you've already got a head of steam running, and that to me makes the most sense. If they're going to be trying to play a tight man coverage or something like Georgia was doing, throw to your motion guy, because it's hard to cover him.
It is. Nope. It is actually. Well, I'll give Sark credit. That was one of his adjustments in the second half. He did that, and actually 4 times in the second half was a big part of why they kind of sparked that run. All right, before we continue, let me thank another one of our fantastic sponsors. I thank our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of Flat Creek Estate Winery, and I love the product, and so does my wife, actually. She's also a big fan of Flat Creek Estate Winery. They do a great job, and we appreciate them for sponsoring the Winning Drive. Folks, did you also know that our friends at Flat Creek are the most awarded wine in Texas, and it's close to Austin, Texas. It's actually just minutes from downtown Austin. That's right, Flat Creek Estate Winery. They won award after award this year for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan is now available at your local specs. You can give it a try. Also, don't forget that our friends at Flat Creek also are a gorgeous venue, and they host a variety of different events, barbecues, wine tastings. If you want to host a very special event, you can get with my friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery. But every single weekend, they have a gorgeous venue with a lot of great events out there. You can go check that out. Perfect for a date with your significant other, or a weekend getaway with that very special person in your life. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery, flatcreekestate.com. We want to thank them for being one of our great sponsors here on the Winning Drive. All right, David has a super chat. Thank you very much, David. We appreciate you, and thanks for your patience and your kindness. He says, after rewatching the Georgia game, the defense excelled in quarters 1 and quarters 3. We lost due to sacks, missed first and third downs, and turnovers. Rod, what are the pros and cons of stemming? Georgia did it often. Why don't more teams use this strategy? Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, David. I think it can. And Coach, obviously, I want your input because you probably know more than me about it in terms of line play. But when you stem that defensive line, first of all, you're just trying to confuse the blocking schemes, right? And you try to do it as close to the snap as you can. So timing it out that's a crucial part of it. And they're just trying to change their gap responsibilities. Therefore, they're going to change or at least confuse the blocking schemes. And I think the reason teams don't do it all the time is because it can get you out of position at times too. If the team has the right run called and you're stemming the wrong place, and then your leverage is a little bit off. So I don't think teams use it, overuse it, I should say, for that reason. But your thoughts, Coach, because I think you probably know more about it than me. Oh, Coach, you're on mute, Coach.
Right. Especially if you wait until I think it's very effective, especially if you wait until they've already audible, maybe. But it as much confusion either side of the ball, as much doubt, as much thinking as you can make your opponent do, the better off you are, as long as nobody on your side of the ball, is confused. I personally like it when defensive linemen stem, and they stem very abruptly, and they'll shift from one shade to the other shade, and they'll have their left hand down, then they'll shift real quick and put their right hand down, shift over a half man or something. And how many times do you see the offense jump when that happens? A lot of people do that. You can't use it very often, or they'll catch on to it. But it's really hard for an offensive lineman to stay in there when he sees 2 or 3 defensive linemen that are shifting real suddenly, and it makes you feel like, you're about to get hit, or maybe the ball was snapped early or whatever. But again, when you sit in a stagnant formation, offensively or defensively, you're making it so much easier for your opponent.
Yep. Yeah. And Georgia did it a lot. I meant to go back and kind of count and go see the rate that they stemmed and changed the front. But I think that was the theme of the game plan for Georgia. Well, a different look pre-snap and post-snap, whether you're talking about the coverage, the way the safeties were rotating, or you were talking about the front itself. And it worked really well. And don't be surprised if Clark Lee, who's a defensive guy and the head coach of Vanderbilt, although he cannot replicate it because he doesn't have, first round 5 stars on his defensive front, he can take that principle and see if they can change up the looks, disguise and mix and match some of the pre-snap looks for Quinn. So we'll see if that's one of the strategies they use. All right, getting back to the questions here. We got Jake says, hey, Rod, do you think it hurt Quinn in NFL eyes for not meeting the media after a rough game, his body language and his soft talking? I don't know if that hurt him as much as – listen, if the NFL scouts right now, if they're down on Quinn because of his last 2 performances, I totally understand that. Quinn can really make them forget all about the bad performances, and he can make them forget about the bad body language and not being available to media after that bad game if he has a great game. Like, it's all on Quinn. If we still continue to, harp on this narrative that, hey, Quinn is regressing, that's up to Quinn. And so I don't necessarily think the scouts are worried about the body language and that after game. They're worried about the performance and his performance on the field, which has been disappointing. So if he performs on the field versus Vanderbilt, the scouts, so honestly, they probably will chalk it up to, hey, he was getting over the injury. Now he's getting healthier, whatever it is. I'm not sure whatever Quinn they'll ask him about it when he goes to the combine. They'll ask him, hey, what was up? What was going on? Why'd you have the 2 worst games of your career potentially, or at least the worst game of your career versus Georgia, when you had one of the best games of your career versus Michigan? What changed? Yeah. What was different? They'll ask you straight up, and they just want you to be truthful with them. And I'm sure he will. But he can put all the quarterback controversy stuff to rest, and he can appease all the NFL scouts if he just goes out there and plays well. But if he doesn't play well, yes, Jake, you're right. Then the scouts, they'll bring up the body language. They'll bring up the fact that, he wasn't ready for the big moment. Everything becomes exaggerated and everything becomes magnified if he doesn't play well. All the little small things that don't matter. Well, he didn't want to meet with the media. Oh, man, so he didn't want to take accountability. All that stuff will start to come out, and there'll be negative data points on his evaluation. But all he's got to do to silence all that is just play well, man. Just play. Yeah. Just play well.
Yeah, I've got a thought on that. One of Sark's, any head coach, one of the big job is always doing what's best for your players, always taking care of your players. You know, they are your commodities. They're why you do what you do. And if you feel like you've got somebody that's not in a good place, you need to protect them a little bit, then I don't know if that's what happened or not. But it could be that he didn't want – it could be that the injury still bothered him, and everybody knows it inside the program, but they didn't want Quinn to have to go in and make some bull crap, excuse as to why he didn't play well. I'm not sure, but I know that Sark is doing what's best for Quinn, and I don't think it's a decision that Quinn made. Quinn's going to do whatever Sark tells him to do, and I think Sark might have just said, you know what, sit this one out, let me take it, and just let him, start healing and just not throw him in the fire like that. I mean, it's just that's my take from a coach's perspective.
I think that's good stuff, especially at the quarterback spot, right? You're already getting so much pressure, so much weight of the success or failure of the team already. I mean, if you can kind of alleviate that after a tough stretch, why not? That more important football is ahead. Your season's not over. Everything that you're fighting for is still ahead of you. Make sure that your quarterback, your signal caller, your bread and butter offensively is in a good headspace. I'm with you, Coach.
Yeah. No, good point. Good stuff there, Coach. Getting back to the questions here. How about this one from DJ? Thank you, DJ, for the question. Do you think we see Benda, LaFau, and Hill on the field at the same time during this game? If not, who plays that Sam role in the base 4-3? What are your thoughts, gentlemen? What are your thoughts about that, CJ?
Yeah, I could see Texas going to a 3 linebacker set. I could see Texas coming into a bear front with a third defensive lineman. If Texas, again, light in the secondary right now, right? Only 3 guys really, plus a Jahdae Barron at safety. If they want to go light, I think you could see a Mo Blackwell kind of in a hybrid box role. And we've seen that in the past. It all really depends on what the situation is for the Vanderbilt offense. If they're still running the football efficiently, if that game is still tight, you probably want to load up the box a little bit. Take away what they do very well, and that's pick up 3 to 4 yards on the ground, stay ahead of the chains, and open up that playbook. If Texas is up 14, or if they have a nice lead at any point, you probably want to throw another safety in the back. Keep Jalen Gilbo on the field because that playbook for Vanderbilt is going to be limited. They're going to have to throw the football to stay in it. It's very much like what we saw against Mississippi State earlier this year, where if you let a team stick around and play to their game plan, it limits what you can do in return. Instead, Texas, if you get up early and ultimately dictate that flow of the game, now you can say, okay, first and 10, that's not what you can do earlier in the game in terms of the running game. The whole playbook's open. Get up early. It's complimentary football to a T this weekend.
Yep. I think you're going to have to play a lot of base against this team because they play with a lot of heavy sets. One of the mistakes that Bama made, they tried to match up with them with nickel all the time. You can do that, but only situationally. I think you need to play more base. It's kind of like when you played Michigan. Texas played a little bit more base than they usually do. How about this one from Josh? Thank you very much for the question here, Josh. Josh says, he says, do you guys think if we limit time of possession, this could get ugly for Vandy real quick? I think the 3 and out, if Texas can get some 3 and outs against this Vandy offense, and Texas defense is right now, because if you look at stop rates, they're one of the best defenses in the country at getting offenses off the field. But you got to do it. You can't just get them off the field because even Vandy if they get a drive that milks 5 minutes off the clock, that's a win for them. Even if they don't get points out of it, that's a win. Because they just took 5 minutes of clock time that Texas won't have the football. Like, that's kind of how they think. And that's their recipe. And it is, Coach, it's a really effective recipe. Limit time of possession basically dominate time possession, limit possessions, period, for your opponent. Take care of the football. They're second in college football in terms of giveaways. They've only had 2 giveaways all season. Their third down, fourth down percentage, they're top 10 and top 15. So they convert, keep the football, and they don't give up a lot of negative plays. So they end up in third and manageable, fourth in, manageable. That's what Texas has to make them abandon that identity, that recipe. That's what they got. Thank you, Josh, for the question.
Yeah.
All right, Josh, another Josh, actually. This is for Coach. Hey, Coach, what are some common similarities you've seen in walk-ons with the expansion of scholarship? What will this do for the walk-on role?
Well, it'll pretty much eliminate it. Would you guys agree? I don't know how. If you go, what are they doing? 125? Is that right? Yeah. You pretty much. Yeah, you pretty much eliminate it, and that's a shame. But it also allows you to maybe take some chances on some guys that you didn't maybe have a scholarship for. One of the things that I look forward to more than anything with the expanded rosters is getting some special teams guys on scholarships that are the real deal, instead of trying to talk a guy into first of all, he's got to have the grades and the test scores to get in, because when you're a walk-on at Texas, there is no exception for you. You have to get into school on your own academic merit, just like the other 50,000 students there or whatever we have now. And so football we can't call over and say, hey, I need a favor. I got this, this prodigy, his dad played here, and, we really want him. No, if he doesn't have the grades, he ain't getting on. So it allows you to take some chances. But like I said, I'm looking forward to getting proven, bona fide punters, kickers, deep snappers on scholarship, so that we're not in a situation like we've been in the last couple of weeks.
Yep. Common similarities you've seen in walk-ons, man. They all are hard workers, because that's a hard life.
Well, let me tell you what, you got to love it, because it's a job and you're a blocking dummy. I mean, unless you're elite, and we've had some guys that have come through and even made it to pro rosters that were walk-ons, but they got to be very mentally tough. That's the main thing. And you got to love football, and you got to love the University of Texas football program, because you do everything the scholarship guys and the guys making X amount of money on NIL. You're doing exactly the same thing there. You're getting up at the same time they're getting up. Yep. You're doing the same study hall, the same weight workout, the same meetings, the same practice, same everything, except when it comes to practice, you're not the star. Don't hurt anybody. Okay. Yeah. You don't hurt anybody, but you got to give them a good look without hurting them. And it's not an easy job, as you know, Rod, from being there and seeing those poor little wide receivers running down the field. Man. That you wonder how they even made a high school team, And sometimes I used to joke, well, that guy's going to be good for team GPA. That's probably about all he's going to do for us is help our team GPA by having 24 walk-ons. Don't think that didn't happen a time or two.
Hey, it did. But you're right, though, Coach. They got to love it, man. They got to love it, because they go out there with passion every day. And you don't get any of the praise. Those guys work hard, man. They do. I got a lot of respect for my walk-on brothers who I played with. How about this one from Hector? Hector says, why is Gibson not being used more?
Couple things. I mean, when you play Oklahoma, when you play Georgia, you got to go with the guys that you trust. And right now, ball security has been an issue for all three, but you at least are familiar with Jaden Blue. You're very familiar with Trey Wisner right now. These are guys that have been in the system for multiple years. It makes sense to go with guys that, you're just more familiar with. You got the trust with. And that's not to say that Gibson's going to be locked into this role forever, right? Texas needs running backs to show up somehow. But, and aside from Michigan, really, which I thought Jarrett Gibson played very well in these situations, you see rotations at every position tighten. in Texas. Again, going with who they trust the most. Well, that just happens to be Trey Wisner and Jaden Blue at the moment.
Yep, I agree with you on that too. But we'll see if maybe later on in the season they start to trust. They are using more running backs, though. You brought up that 31 personnel package. Ryan Niblett right now is taking that role, though, as that other running back. So here's getting back to some more questions. How about this one from David? He says, do you think Georgia was taking away the short passes, slants, and anything across the middle because Texas's tendencies are not to throw to the outside or down the sideline? I just think those are the toughest throws to make. And I think Georgia took away the easy throws. A lot of those quick throws, they took away some of the easy throws. And I wouldn't doubt if Clark Lee does something very similar, Coach. And I almost dare Quinn to make some of those NFL caliber throws. Let's see if he can throw the 30, 40-yard, bomb over the top. We'll give it to him. Let's see if he can make the deep throws outside the numbers. We'll give it to him. And maybe that's the lesson they take from Georgia.
Well, if you do that stuff and your quarterback's off, then great decision. And that's basically what happened Saturday.
Yep.
They took away the easy stuff, and if you were going to beat them, you're going to have to be on your top, your A game, and Quinn was not on his A game. And the short passes, the slants, all that kind of stuff, unless it was, the target was in motion, then there was a pretty good chance he was open.
Yeah.
Like you rhyme that, target in motion means he's open. Get the man the ball.
Rod, we haven't talked about it other than maybe during the live stream, but you did call the Texas route would be available for the running backs over the middle. Jaden Blue scored there. What's on? You got the crystal ball out right now. You got any predictions? For this Vanderbilt game coming up?
No. Yeah, I've been thinking about that. Something that I'm almost guaranteed that I think they're going to be guaranteed to see in this game. I do think you will get some of those targets the motion coach was talking about. I think that's guaranteed. I'm going to say, because we haven't seen it all season, and I don't know where it is, and I don't know what the reason is, actually. I would love somebody to ask Coach Sark about it. Maybe we get the 6-0 line package. Like, where has it been? Why don't they? I mean, last year and the year before, it was kind of one of your go-to staples as a change of pace, and we have not seen it at all. I wonder. I'm really curious about it. So maybe Vandy's the game you break it out for. Maybe you just want to play bully ball, push Vandy around, and you
Absolutely
do it adding another big old lineman, right, Coach?
There is no way we went six linemen or even 2 tight ends. I just don't think that they can stop it. Run right, and don't try to go to the sidelines. Don't let them string it out. Run right at them, then let your back find a crease and go. How can their defensive line and linebackers? I mean, for a while there, our offensive line was talked as if they may be the top offensive line in the country. I don't know that award is still. I don't think we're going to be in the running for that award anymore unless something drastically changes. But I think that's a good plan. Just hit them in the mouth, drive them back, make them like it, make them start backing off a little bit, or their second coverage-wise coming in to stop the run. Now it opens up. You get more things, that you really like to do. That's more in your wheelhouse.
Yep.
I wouldn't be afraid of lining up and just knocking them off the ball instead of throwing it 7 times to start the game. Run it 7 times and have those guys' head spinning around like, oh man, I hadn't had a lineman come off on me like that all year. And then here's another one right behind him.
Yeah. No, seriously, you know what? That would be, because there's no way. I'm with you, Coach. I mean, how the hell would they match up? Seriously, there's no way they'd be able to match up. But that's one of that's a, I don't know if that's a wacky prediction, but that's my prediction for the game.
Well, then, you remember you would see a lot of quarterbacks that would do that. Teams would put more of a running quarterback in there and just say, okay, we got basically 13 or 12 guys on the field. We're just gonna run that. How many times did Kansas State do that and do it effectively? Of course, they have different types of running backs, quarterbacks, but it'd be nice to have a little guy back there who in a Wildcat that can do that.
Yeah, we haven't seen. Have we seen any Wildcat this year?
No, they've abandoned it this year.
Yeah.
We've also not seen the six-man offensive line this year, and I don't know if that's in the playbook this year.
I know. It's so weird because they still got Malik Agbo here. He was the guy that did it last year. It's so strange how it's like now a non-factor at all. I thought he was saving it. I was like, maybe he's saving it for that Texas-Oklahoma game. Maybe he's saving it for the Georgia game. Haven't seen yet. Maybe he was saving it for the Vanderbilt game. I have no idea. All right. Greg here says, how many games at Texas has Quinn looked elite? I thought Michigan game he looked elite. I thought Bama, he looked like Bama that first quarter against Bama in 2022. He looked pretty damn good too before he got hurt. He looked really good before he got hurt. Actually, I want to say those, and then that was it. What other games has he looked elite?
Yeah.
Those are big games though.
It's interesting with Quinn because you see spurts of elite with him. In most games he has like a full 2 quarters. Normally in the second and third quarter when Texas goes on their runs, that's when you see him truly play to the level that you expect. Oklahoma last year, what he complete about 19 in a row. It's pretty good. Washington after the slow first half, I think he ended up throwing for 330 yards. Pretty good.
Pretty good.
It's interesting. The Big 12 championship game, Texas Tech, he was in a rhythm the last 3 or 4 games of that season. It's all about just stringing together, good games for Quinn right now. And again, what was the conversation before he got hurt? Holy cow, this guy's the front runner for the Heisman.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
Yep. I agree with that. We got a super chat here. And before we get to it, let me thank one of our sponsors, our friends over at South Point, very quickly. Hey, Texas football fans, remember you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. They have over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s, whatever your truck needs. South Point Dodge is the one-stop shop. You can go check them out today. They have a great deal happening with over 50 Ram 2500s, all marked down with huge savings right now at South Point Dodge. So go check them out in person off of I-35 in South Austin, or you can go online to look at their fantastic inventory at southpointdodge.com. Get to the point at South Point Dodge, Austin's automotive everything, your one-stop shop for all of your truck needs. That is southpointdodge.com. Thank you very much, South Point Dodge, for sponsoring the winning drive. How about this? Big Brown Bevo. Thank you for the super chat, Big Brown Bevo. After multiple watches of the Georgia game, were you able to identify which O-linemen were most responsible for blocking breakdowns? Ooh, that's a good one. I will admit I did not chart it in that manner. I'm sure actually Pro Football Focus probably does have that information, and we can get it for you pretty easily, Big Brown Bevo. Guys, what are your thoughts? Did you find a main culprit on the offensive line? Rewatching it, was there somebody that was a little bit more exposed than others?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I don't like calling out folks, but Cam Williams didn't have a good day. He was picked on. He allowed a few sacks, had several pressures allowed on the quarterback, led the team in both areas. There's miscommunications between him and DJ Campbell that allowed for a flush of Arch Manning out of the pocket that resulted in a sack. Again, I know folks want to debate whether or not, those sacks on Quinn Ewers were Kelvin Banks' fault. He still didn't have a great day. And I think in the interior, Jake Majors in the run game, he was blown back a few times. He wasn't the Jake Majors that we've seen. That's one SEC offensive lineman of the week. It was just a bad showing for the offensive line in general. Again, Hayden Connor, it wasn't pretty for anybody. Now, it goes hand in hand with Quinn. It goes hand in hand with the running game as well to complement one another, and this is a great opportunity to get back to that way. It wasn't just one guy. That collective unit wasn't great.
Yeah, I agree. And Sark said that too. Sark said it was not just one guy. There was several breakdowns across the board. Thank you very much, Big Brown Bevo. We appreciate the super chat. How about this question from Drew? Hey, fellas, I really hope all of our guys know their entire season goals right on this Vandy game. I truly believe that you guys agree with that at all. You definitely don't have margin for error now. In terms of your goals to win the SEC. I'm sure that's one of their goals, along with win the national title. To win the national title one, I think you can lose this game and still be in the playoff. But after that, your margin for error shrinks to a minuscule margin for error, because if you lose 3 games, I don't know if you make the college football playoff with 3 losses. With 2, you still can. With 3, I don't know if you can, but you definitely, your SEC title hopes grow much dimmer, right, if they lose this game versus Vandy.
Texas loses again in SEC play. They're not making it to Atlanta.
There you go.
There's just too many teams.
Yep. The Aggies are screwing it up for you, actually, right now, and LSU, because nobody really expected those 2 teams to be the 2 teams right now that control their own fate in the SEC. So thank you, Drew. Drew, we're agreeing with you. A lot on the line here. Dak says, do you guys think Taft has a chance to go pro? That is a good question. Yeah, he's got a chance. But what a minute. Yeah, of course he's got a chance. He'll get into a camp somewhere.
Yeah.
Then it'll kind of be up to him. I think somebody will give him a chance. But it's still a tougher. He knows it, because there's not a tougher road to make a college football roster coach and doing it as a walk-on. And he probably have to do it as a drafted free agent in the NFL too. So he knows the tough road. That's the hardest way to make an NFL roster. Ain't no doubt about it, as an undrafted free agent.
I think his special teams play could help him, and just the fact that he's got good football smarts. I mean, he seems to be in the right place at the right time, and there's a place for guys like that in the NFL. A guy who is not going to be misaligned. He's not going to miss a call. He's going to be making sure everybody's lined up where they're supposed to be lined up. And I like the way that he leads. He's got kind of a different leadership quality about him. More of a Colt McCoy type, quiet, seemed like a good guy. He's thoughtful of others. He just not the in your face, a lot of look at me kind of stuff. He's a guy who I think has a really good chance. And of course, he's one of those guys that you watch play and you go, wow, kind of like Colt, you go, wow. When he's through, I hope he'll come back and coach here.
Yeah.
Because he's that well, he's that well appreciated and loved, because everybody loves the underdog, and a guy coming in and the previously ranked #1 in the country, and he's starting in the secondary as a walk-on. That's huge. I think there'll be a place for him.
Yep, I like that. All right, I think our last sponsor of the evening, our friends over at Hardgrove Roofing. I want to thank them for sponsoring the winning drive. They also are the ones that help bring us a lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee on Mondays. Hardgrove Roofing has offices all over Louisiana, Arkansas, and of course the great state of Texas, including Austin, Texas. Hardgrove Roofing will take care of all of your roofing needs, plus they're Longhorn friendly. They have partnerships with Lifetime Longhorn Bert Auburn, as well as Lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee, the most pro burnt orange roofing company out there. Call them today for a free roof inspection, 512-645-3202, or you can visit hardgroveroofing.com. That's hardgroveroofing.com. Know who's on your roof with Hardgrove Roofing. Sorry, guys, we couldn't get to all the questions. We have to end the show a little earlier today than we usually would. But remember, tomorrow, of course, we'll have coffee and football early up in the morning at 8 a.m., and you'll have your opportunity for our Friday live stream. That'll be at 1 p.m., and I believe the guys will be in Nashville at the time for that. That's going to be pretty cool. All right. Thank you, Coach, for all the wisdom. Thank you for all the knowledge. CJ, we appreciate you as well. Matthew, behind the scenes, you are the real MVP. God bless you guys for all the super chats. Thank you for your participation as well. Thank you to Hardgrove Roofing. Thank you to Flat Creek Estate Winery. Thank you to SouthPointDodge.com and DuckCamp.com as well. And then we'll be back tomorrow. Remember, all things Texas football. Keep it right here tuned in to On Texas Football at ontexasfootball.com. Until next time, hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em.